you would do well to ask the question, who is this fella, and why should I listen to him, or should I even listen to him at all? And to just to start and to make things very simple, I am not that kind of doctor. There are some pundits out there who a lot of people listen to, who have high degrees in medicine or psychology, psychiatry, some other area of life, and they attract a following because in part they're articulate, in part they have some experiences and some wisdom to offer, but also just because of the allure of their chosen profession. And I just want to start out by saying I am not that kind of doctor. My specialty is in great books and in reading high-end materials from the past and trying to ferret out some kind of meaning, some kind of understanding of why people thought and did the things that they did dozens, even hundreds or thousands of years ago. And to think about the big questions that people keep talking about year over year, century over century, millennia over millennia. Things like love and God, wealth and wisdom, ideas like constitution and change and choice, just to put 3 C's right there together. Concepts that we've kind of forgotten over the past 100 or 200 years or so, like duty and courage. What does it mean to struggle with the weaknesses of self and the inadequacies of life? And those are the types of questions that I wrestle with. Now, part of this is academic. My training as a doctor of humanities and history is looking at these topics, things like the interaction between learning and liberty and leadership, and how those ideas reinforce each other, how when any one of those is missing that we end up with something like indoctrination or tyranny, the difference between different types of education, those that are fit for free people and those types of education that are fit for making slaves or employees or indoctrinating people. And along the way, I practiced quite a bit of my teaching inside of the prison system and working with inmates in medium and maximum security prisons here in Arkansas. But something else that I did, and again, I'm not this kind of doctor. I'm not your psychiatrist or your clinical psychologist with tens of thousands of hours of experience sitting and listening to the heartbreak and the angst that people go through. But I do have hundreds and hundreds of hours of training in how to work with prison inmates, how to work with really, really difficult circumstances and the pain of life that lands someone who, at 5 months old was just a beautiful little baby. At 5 years old was maybe a cantankerous little boy. At 15 years old was a troubled teen. And by 25, 35, 50, are looking at the rest of their life in prison. I spent thousands and thousands of hours in conversation with and just trying to befriend and get to know those who were in our medium to maximum security prisons here in Arkansas. And some of the hardest, harshest environments known to man are in prison, not because of the environmental situation, but just being confined. As one of my friends put it, he said, I live in a 100% crime rate neighborhood, and the struggles that come up emotionally, spiritually, physically, and intellectually from being in a place like that. I did some of my service, some of my volunteer service, working with prison inmates in the supermax areas within supermax prisons, including death row, and got to know some extraordinary stories, some extraordinary individuals who had had some really tough choices in life and were not equipped, in part because of their lack of education, or their lack of an education that is fit for making free people. They did not make good choices. And so I'm not that kind of doctor. If you're looking for a psychiatrist who can analyze all of your problems, that's not me. If you're looking for a medical doctor who can talk to you about all sorts of intricacies, I have some friends like that. One of my best friends from college is, he's known as the Bone Doc. He's an osteosurgeon out of Nashville, and world-renowned and in demand for all sorts of surgeries and lectures, and he trains the surgeons, especially I've seen him go to India several times and work with large conventions over there and training surgeons. There's a wonderful Christian man named Corey Calendine, and so if you need that kind of doctor, I can point you in the right direction there. I'm also not your typical academic doctor. I have a lot of friends who have doctorates in various subject areas. Most of them are very deep in their area, and my training is to be very broad, and not that I can't go deep, but my training is to be very broad, and then to have the research skills when when I need to go deep in an area, or when something catches my attention where I want to go deep in an area. But I'm not that kind of doctor. My love and my joy is when I experience myself growing closer to God because of the academic gifts that He's allowed me to hone over the years, because of the childhood curiosity and the types of questions that He has kept alive in me. The opportunity to be in conversations and ask questions that most people, it seems like our education system does a good job of making us afraid to ask certain types of questions, especially the types that make teachers nervous because they don't necessarily have the answer to a question that calls for interpretation. And I love those kind of questions and those kind of conversations. The types of questions and conversations that if you've been to college and you found yourself staying up all night in the dorm talking about the big problems of the world and solving all the problems of the world, and then you wake up the next day and you go take a test on some accounting formulas, those conversations that really make college exciting are not the ones anymore that often aren't the ones anymore that happen in the classroom. And I love to have those kind of conversations where you're taking on a problem or some potential and exploring that in the mind first, so that then being informed in the mind and kind of figuring out what ideas do and don't work, you can get into some practical application. One project that I'm involved in right now is my wife and I both have, in our adult lives, the majority of our life has been in education and in ministry, particularly in working with nonprofits and in working with churches. And in some of that work, we've had some bitter experiences, and part of that is our own immaturity that we've brought to those situations, but part of it is because the ground shifted out from under us. I've noticed recently there are a lot of popular folks who are talking about how they left this political party, or they left this, journalists anymore are leaving the profession and going out on their own and just doing journalism. I've seen several folks from that would typically be thought of as liberals or Democrats, or whatever you want to put on them, and even some who have been Republicans and have just said, this is why I left. I couldn't continue to be part of something that basically had left me. Robert Kennedy Jr. here recently said something along the lines of the Democrat Party of his uncle and his father is not the same party today, and that the leadership in the party has left them, and not that they are leaving the party. And in a lot of ways, our religious changes that we've gone through in our life, we have not left one church to go to another church as much as we have woken up and looked around and realized that where we are has left where we were and where we were convicted that we needed to be. And so we would go and we would search out and find another place to be. And that's happened multiple times in our life. And sometimes we've changed just because we've realized that most of our friends or most of our close relationships are in another fellowship. But I do know that there are some people who are looking and seeking and hoping for some religious answer. And I might be able to help there, because a lot of the situations that I dealt with in working with difficult, sometimes extremely difficult men in prison were situations where they had left and they woke up in a horrible, dark place and started looking for God again, maybe even for the first time. And in looking for God, what they want, or what they wanted, was in part, we all kind of like to have someone tell us what to do. I'm not that kind of doctor either. Want to have somebody tell us what to do, and the danger is that we can hide behind someone else's prescriptions spiritually, and then when it doesn't work out, we have someone to blame. And the other type of individual that I found was the type of man who had been burned some way spiritually, maybe had gone through some kind of, didn't necessarily call it or know it as spiritual abuse, but gone through some kind of circumstance where someone used spiritual authority over them to manipulate them. And they just wanted to find, is there anything that is real, that is true, that is honest, any religious idea that just invites me to grow and to become in the grandest sense, as opposed to being told what to become. And the thing that I love about pure Christianity, just the type of focus of loving God and learning to love God and learning to trust God the way that Jesus trusts God, and what we see play out in the gospel story. And then how to be open to being transformed by the work of that story, by the work of that God and His Christ and His Holy Spirit, and be transformed so that then not only am I better at loving God and accepting the fact that God loves me, but at loving others and putting that into motion. And if you're looking for just something that is not someone getting between you and God, but rather somebody really trying to put your hand in the hand of God and walk alongside you, that's the kind of doctor that I am. And I wouldn't even call myself a doctor in that sense. I'm just an overeducated guy who wants to love people and wants to learn how to be loved by God better, so that I can be better at loving others. That was a bit rambly. Wasn't exactly focused this morning on anything other than just kind of reintroduce myself. Like I said, my name is Jeff, and live in Central Arkansas. My wife and 3 kids live close around us. My oldest is married, and he and his wife live a couple blocks away. We are in Searcy, Arkansas, which is an education town. We have a university here that is the Division II National Football Champions from last year, Harding University, and the Bison football program. My wife and I are involved in a ministry startup that is a place where couples who are serving in ministry can come together and process out their difficulties and learn some advanced tactics on how to have a conversation-based classroom and small group that they can duplicate, that is much less work and much more rewarding than a lot of adult class programs. But then also just be able to bleed off some of the pressure, some of the anxiety, some of the hurts by talking in confidentiality with other couples who are in ministry. And so we have that, and we are establishing a place where that can happen called Christ on the River, and that's the name of this channel. But I thought even then you might want to know, who is this guy who's going to be talking about all these alternative building programs, and why is that important, and is sometimes talking about these esoteric education ideas, and what's at the base of that. And then he's got all these stories from prison, and what's the deal with that, and how does he know things that go on in prison. And I just want to share. And if there's anything that you are curious about, or if there's just any question that you have, something that's, a serious question. I know sometimes I'll ask people if they have a question. I'll ask some this seems like they're gotcha questions, or just let me see if I can make you look stupid by asking a question that makes no sense. And I'm not really interested in those conversations. But if there's something that's really gnawing at you, something that is spiritual, something that maybe you don't like Jesus, maybe you think you've got a really good reason not to like Jesus or not to like God. Hey, I went on my atheist journey. I know what that feels like, and I don't have all the answers, but I do have some ways that I've looked at things that it's like, it just doesn't make sense any other way. And so I can have those kind of conversations. I would like to find some folks who want to get on and have conversations live and do, like the Zoom calls or podcasts or things like that. But today I just wanted to reintroduce myself, let you know who I am. Again, I'm not that kind of doctor, but if you're looking for somebody who is able to hear without jumping to judgment and is willing to entertain, I've heard some pretty off-the-wall ideas over almost 20 years of going in and out of prisons and talking with men who, when you got a lot of time on your hands, sometimes you come up with some pretty interesting ideas that you want to test out. And I'm good to listen to ideas without judgment, and I enjoy listening to deep problems and deep struggle, and stepping into that struggle with you and seeing if there's anything, any helpful way of thinking about it. I wouldn't call it advice, because I don't know that I've had the kind of results in life that lead to giving good advice, but I do enjoy thinking about difficult things, and I've got some anecdotal stories of difficult things that I've seen others work through. I will let you know that I am deeply flawed, and if we do get to know each other, I will let you down. I'm human. I have my own struggles. I have my own darkness that I constantly battle, and I have my own, again, inadequacies that cause me to question things that I wish I didn't have to question. Things in my own life, my own relationships, my own faith. And what I've found is that when there are others that are willing to struggle and to be real alongside, that it makes it a lot easier for me to keep my head on straight. And if I can be that for you, or if any of these topics that we discuss can help you along the way, great. I'm going to go ahead and call it for today. It's gone longer than what I intended. When I say I love you, I know that if we were sitting in the same room, that I could look you in the eye, and having heard your heart say, I love you. I don't necessarily agree with everything that everyone chooses to do, but it's not my job to judge. It's my job to love, and I want to do that. Sometimes it looks like accepting someone where they are, always, I think, but also not being content with allowing someone to stay where they're at. And I sure hope that if we ever get a chance to talk and you see something in my life that's amiss, that you won't be content to let me continue going down a harmful path, but that you'll call me out on that and challenge me. I think that's one thing that friends can do, and I'd like to be your friend. I like to think that if we were in the same room, we could be friends. And so that's the spirit that I bring to this. If you're looking for somebody who can help you fix things, I can help you fix your sink. I might be able to help you fix wiring in your house or something like that. But I'm not that kind of doctor either. So you're taking your risks when you listen to me, and I hope that we can get to know each other. If you have any comments, leave them below. I'd love for you to like and share, and stay tuned. We'll be back, and we'll be more focused. Next time when we get together to talk, I want to dig into one of these great ideas, and I'm thinking that the best place to start, just because life is short and people need to understand more about what God has to say about himself and know more about what that means for who we are and what our identity should be. I think I just want to talk about love and just the history of love from its purest to its most bastardized sense, and just to see if we can't explore some old ideas and put them up against some eternal ideas, and even let some new ideas crash against this concept of love. And maybe in doing that, we can do something that matters. I'd sure like to do something that matters with you, and I'd like for you to do something that matters with me. So for now, again, I'm not that kind of doctor. In the future, I'd like to talk with you about love and about what it is to love and be loved, and the pure and right and proper ordering of our relationships, so that when we say that we love someone or we love something, that we are not being flippant, but we are expressing a deep and essential part of ourselves, and understanding that we can make commitments and choices that will lead us to better places than some of the darkness I've walked alongside others in. Anyway, I love you. Have a good day.